Today we're going to be making these little welcome signs. These are made with old pallet wood, and we just broke it off, kind of cut through the back side just a little bit, and then put it down on a table and break to get your rough pieces. Once you have your wood, the first thing you're going to do is decide on a sprig, or in this case I'm using little individual daisies. I've cut the back piece off with wire cutters. And then you can either go ahead and glue it on before you start on the welcome part. If you're left-handed, you may want to wait to glue them or do your arrangement on the right side of the board and your word to the left, so your thing's not getting in the way while you're trying to paint. In this case, I'm right-handed. I'm going to do these two. Here. You want to use a regular temperature gun and not a low temp gun, especially if these are hanging outside. The elements the hot glue gun, the hot holds up much better. This other one that I have with the fall was made about 10 years ago, and it's hung outside every year, and I've never had anything fall off of it. You want to go ahead and figure out where it's going to go. Put your glue underneath. I do want to warn you that this is very hot. So if there's not a lot of material or it's not real thick, you may want to use a stick or something to press that down into the hot glue so you don't burn your fingers like I did on my pinky earlier. If you get it down and you decide it's sitting up a little bit too much, you can go back and lift it and put a little bit more there. I don't want it completely flat, but I think I'm going to do just an extra little dot here. Hold it down a little bit more. Okay. And then I decided I'm going to put this one over here, but I'm going to wait until I've painted to do that. Now, before you start, if you're not sure, you can trace out your letters with a pencil, or if you're comfortable with your freehand, I just used a marker. Now, to be perfectly honest, you can continue to use the marker instead of paint just by going over it. And making the letter a little bit wider. I kind of like to use the paint because it's, I don't know, to me it gives it a little more texture or depth. You want to use a narrow paintbrush. You don't want to get too wide. or not any wider than the length of your letters. When you tip it in, you just want to barely get the tip of your brush wet. So you're just going to tip it straight in. And then on the longer letters, we'll just place it down. Apply a little bit of pressure, not much. And then when you're doing your shorter pieces, you're going to use the very corner. Just dab and dab onto your board. Oops, paper shifty. For a shorter straight edge, you can just go down part way. Or again, just dab the whole way, whatever you're more comfortable with. Now you notice on the wood, because of the grains, the paint wants to kind of bleed out a little bit. And that's okay. That's why we're not pressing real hard. Remember, the people are going to be looking at this from a distance. And then just go ahead and paint all your letters. When you're doing the curves, again, that's hard. That's, you know, you're going to be just dabbing with the tip almost and moving it around. And if it gets a little fat, well, you know, that's okay. These are homemade, handmade, and we're not all perfect. But I am going to show you a little bit later how we can kind of fix a little bit of those messy rough edges. So continue with your word across. I'm going to finish this later, and we're going to move to the next step once you've finished painting. This is one that I've already started. I painted it earlier, and as you can see, some of the letters, it's a little lighter, where there's a little whiter bleeding. So I'm going to cheat. You can actually take a very fine tip paintbrush, but again, with the bristles, it tends to want to bleed out. I just take a Sharpie, a fine point, and then I just go back and I just touch up those spots. Kind of even out the edges of the letters a little bit and fill in where I think it might need it. So whatever you feel it needs. I am definitely not a perfectionist when it comes to my crafts. I think that's part of the charm of it. So just fill in where you think it needs it. And if you'll notice that a lot of my letters, they're a lot fatter on one side, and that's okay too. That happens, like if you were doing calligraphy with the pens, you have fatter spots, and it's all good. So I'm not going to finish that up because, again, I'm going to move on so y'all can do this I understand they're gonna put this video on the web so you can go back later and look at it, or stop, and you can stop it and start as you're doing it. Okay, so our next piece, once we have this, would be to do your hanger. You'll notice on this one, I used wire for the whole hanger, and I put little curly cues in here, and then just tied raffia on the top. And I did the curly cues on both sides. And I used only raffia for the bow, because it's kind of folly. This time, I'm just gonna give you another option. I'm using, it's actually kind of a coppery color wire. Oops. First, you're gonna take your little eye hooks. You wanna measure in about 3 inches from the side. And you're gonna be screwing them in with the hole open from the side. Older fence board and pallet board, which the pallet board I used for the other ones. This one actually is an old fence board, not pallet board, but it's been used, and we just power washed it and cleaned it off. We did just go ahead and cut the edges straight on that one. But usually the wood is soft enough to where you don't need to start a hole. You can just put your screw in and start screwing it down. Sometimes when you get deeper, and especially like the last turn when you're like think, oh, I've got it in pretty far where I want it, but then it's like it's really tight for me for you to turn. So if you keep a pair of needle nose or pliers on hand to help give it, you can just grab it and turn it that last part so you're not tearing up your fingers. Okay, so it's pretty easy to go. Like I said, if you do have trouble getting it started, take a very small skinny nail and just tap it in a little bit so you can get it started, and that'll help a lot. Now on this one, so you're gonna pull the wire, fold it up, one end up about 1 inch, and then put it through. And twist. Just keep twisting it until that whole thing is twisted around nice and snug. Okay. Then you're gonna come up, my wires, I don't know, about between 34 and 36 inches, I'm not sure. Depending on how many loops you want to put on it, and if you're going to put it on both sides, you can kind of judge. It's better to have it longer, and then cut it as you need it. So, oops. You can use a pencil, or in this case, I'm using the wooden handle of the brush. So come up about 3 inches or so, and then just wrap. Now on this one, I decided I'm gonna do this only on one side. And that's why I'm getting paint all over me, because I grabbed a brush that had paint. Not smart, Suzanne. On the other one, I did like 4 wraps, and I did it on this each side, but I think on this one, I'm just gonna put the curly cues on one side. So I'm gonna go about 6 or 7 times. And then pull that out. Decide about where you want your height to be. I think that's good for me. Put your wire through from the other eye hole. Go ahead and clip your wire at about 1 inch there. That's 1 inch. And twist it again. You want to start down low next to that hook. Okay. Now, on the other one, which was more fall-like, I did just a raffia ribbon. And this one, I just want a little more Christmas. So, I'm using raffia and ribbon. My raffia, I took grabbed 3 or 4 pieces. With the ribbon, I'm doing just 3 pieces of raffia. And those, you want to do 26 to 28 inches long when it's stretched out. And the ribbon, 4 to 6 inches longer. Now, because I've got the curly cues on one side and not the other, I want to offset and put the ribbon on this side only instead of in the center. If you want to, you can do it in the center or wherever you like. And then you're just tying it in place. You want to knot it really good. And snug in the center, and pull that as tight as you can before you start making your bows or anything like that. And then just make yourself a bow. Just like a regular little bow. And pull the pieces through. Kind of pull that down. Doesn't have to be perfect. And pull it really tight. If you want to keep it from slipping, flip it upside down, and then just take your hot glue gun and put just a little dab on either side of the wire there and on the knot to kind of hold it all there in place. And there you go. You have a nice little welcome sign to hang outside for the holidays. You can do them for any holiday. Substitute any kind of ribbon with your raffia. very simple. Everything's reused. Actually, everything here came out of my craft room. Not everybody will have that, but your wood's recycled. Like I said, old fence pallet boards for the narrower ones. A great way to reuse. Quick and easy craft. And real quickly, just to show you an option, when I was out in the garage earlier, I found this white chain, and I'm actually going to use that on this one with the daisies. As soon as I get my husband to cut it to the length I need, because those links might be a little heavy for me and my little wire cutters. But you could use a chain like that, and you could even weave a narrow ribbon or the raffia in through the holes if you wanted to do something a little different. That's pretty much it. I hope you enjoy this, and thanks for watching.